Only in the description in the distant 1987th year already past the 27th International. In the city there was just a brand new and one of the best models in history. At 40, the company Piston presented a chic 911 flagging behind opened the future. And this is a difficult poetic word given. And you will understand why. But I'll start with less. The first model I singled out gives and presents to the salon for 8 months of the year. Introduce yourself to the second generation of the model. Well, the first, by the way, I already told in the 34th issue. So this was an unusual version. What was she like? Let's start with the fact that even then it could boast of the richest equipment, including a strong motor system, a digital quad panel, an automatic system with different buttons and even a good central console function, as well as an electronic package. But the one presented was not surprising for the children, but for the fact that at first it was a folding, gathering metal roof with an electric arrival, which, in fact, turned the bathing practically into a convertible. Why I said practically, I think, there is no need to explain. The idea is very interesting and rarely implemented. The fate of this concept is quite rosy. Already in 1980 a year, the modification was released in a circulation of 500 pieces exclusively for the domestic market, and at the present time it is of corruption value. But another, shown at that auto show, a concept of the current model will delight someone, and maybe even shock. The technologies that Toyota demonstrated then will hardly be envied, and will probably, even the current one gives, and all this in 1987. With this car, the company seemed to want to demonstrate to the public what a luxurious door coupe could become in the 90s, when all the technical ones on the contrary of this car were completely capable of working. To begin with, the dolls had simply gigantic dimensions. For example, the length reached 509 centimeters, and the width was 186 centimeters. Under the hood was a solid from an engineering point of view, an experimental motor of the 8 unit boasting a block and 2 heads made of aluminum alloy, each of which had 4 valves. Cylinder in the world and 8. Then it was a real rarity. What's more, the engine rejoiced wore exhaust manifolds, 2 thrown and guided electronics, a variable exhaust mechanism with a valve, exhaust manifolds to achieve higher torque at different RPM. With a volume of as much as 0.8 of a liter, the power reached 235 horsepower, and the moment of 325 Newton meters was available at 4000 RPM. This relatively low-return-stepped automatic transmission replaces a super-low coefficient of economic resistance of 0 as much as 2600s could fly along the highway at a speed of 260 km per hour and literally amazed all interiors. It was just stuffed with technology, electronic devices, a chair panel with 12 oppositional electronic adjustments, and that's all the flowers. The driver had a special card with a built-in memory in it to record a certain code, a kind of key. It was recognized by the car software. Due to this, access to the passenger compartment and the steering wheel was carried out without a key in automatic mode according to previously programmed parameters. Activate the settings under the stated card holder only after the driver made a map in a special card. It was possible to activate the ignition and start the engine. There was a control panel in the central tunnel. All these go to a single farm, consisting of buttons and a special dollar exchange rate. Probably, in this you already feel a similarity to the modern gray-haired system of My Entire Family Kitchen in Charge. The system provides more information about the system, consisting of 2 dresses, as well as digital courtyard panels and small digital sensor screens using the course described above. The second buttons could be operated on a traditional system. Now we look at the maps, and for cases when the signal from the satellites was absent, his compass and the usual complex were present, and also on the heart of the screen he displayed an image of a telephone and address directory from that, which, by the way, was recorded in the memory of the driver's card. But the most interesting technological tricks began further. Gibbs barely boasted radar controls. That is, the car could independently reduce the case of a dangerous approach to the passing car set for speed control, and then continue moving after it, keeping the distance. Not fiction, but how do you like a transparent roof with a function? The author of the darkening phone systems industry is an engineer displaying 3 degrees of tilt of the car, taxi, operation and 10 operation. Diagnostics could also be displayed. In addition, the car boasted 12 discs, sits with a tender and even rain sensors, but that's not all that the 5-meter one could surprise with. Buying the Effect, it was hardly at first a progressive system of complete arrived with a central official, equipped with a metal control. The most dramatic pressure was electronically adjusted based on the readings of sensors on each wheel, the opening angle was thrown and so on. Thanks to this torque, the settlement is distributed in different proportions. The maximum possible maneuverability and stability in corners and on a straight line was ensured by a controlled electronics system of rear wheel taunting. For example, if a strong crosswind was blowing, the car was pulled sideways based on the sensor readings. Electronics on its own could slightly turn, of course, so that stability was preserved, but simply gorgeous smoothness ensured, as Toyota called it, controlled electronics and an active suspension to it. Each of the 4 struts could individually change the stiffness, simulating force, depending on road conditions. In addition to 2 sensors for determining the quality of the road surface, the system could automatically increase the wedge. If the road was bad, add an automatic religious brake light mirrors and a complete control system. Get stuffed even by modern standards, acutely, but even for a concept, but 30 years ago, this is a real fantasy. She in the comments want to ask you what a serial car and 80s and 90s super equipment. You also don't forget to subscribe to this channel.